Hey, what's up, my friend? Welcome to your level 2 astrology course. Aspects, orbs, and tying it all together with how to channel this energy. Now, I'm also adding in here Chiron. Right now, we are going through a massive awakening. So Chiron is the bridge between the third dimensional world here to the fourth and fifth dimensional worlds that we're moving into. So understanding the chironic energy going into that next level is going to really help you understand how to interpret your birth chart. But in order to be able to get there, we have to understand the basic foundation of the houses and the planets first, which you learned in level 1. Now in level 2, we're going to go into how these planets speak to each other in which different houses. And then I'm actually going to go through a very significant day coming up, whether you're seeing this before or after, a very significant day in all of our lives, December 21st of 2020. So let's get into astrology level 2, aspects, channeling, and of course, Chiron. Aspects. What is an aspect? An aspect in astrology are utmost importance in interpreting any chart. Aspects indicate how the various planetary and sign energies actually play out. They indicate, among other things, if there will be struggle or ease. Without acknowledging the aspect in the chart, the reading is incomplete and ultimately incorrect. Keep this in mind when you begin to read the interpretations of your planets in the sign of your chart. The aspects tell more of the story. So what are aspects in astrology? Simply put, aspects are a connection or relationship between two or more planets. This connection always alters the interpretation of the planet and signs involved. When planets are in aspects to each other, their interpretations must be blended according to the nature of the aspect. To be precise, aspects are special degrees of separation between planets with respect to the Earth. Since astrology focuses on the interplay between the celestial bodies and our Earth, we take a geocentric, Earth-centric, okay, or Earth-centered view of the heavens, meaning the Earth is the center, all the planets are around us. The planets then are observed to orbit at different speeds in approximately the same planet, Earth, space, astrology, art, and space. As a result of these planetary motions, various angles measured in degrees, arc minutes, and arc seconds, which we'll go over, are formed between the planets as seen from the Earth. In mathematics, an angle is defined as that fraction of a circle formed between two lines that intersect at the vertex. Imagine the Earth being at the center of the circle. Then imagine a line being drawn from two planets each to the Earth, so that the Earth is the vertex of the angle. So basically, the Earth is the center, and we're drawing lines to all the different planets. And the angle of that line is the aspect, okay? The number of degrees between the two lines connecting two planets with respect to the Earth forms the angular relationship, the aspect between the two planets. Aspects are considered not only for the planet, sun, and moon, but also for points of the ascendant in midheaven and for calculations as well. Like Black Moon Lilith is a calculation. It's not an actual planet, okay? It's an actual calculation. There are other the ascendant is a calculation. The ascendant and a descendant. I'm gonna give you an example of all this stuff, okay? But just understand that the angle represents a certain vibration, and we're gonna get into the vibration. But how? So we have the foundation, right? We have the planets. You know what the planets represent. You know what the houses represent. Now we're going to really get into how they talk to each other. And really, this is how, as you're going through this, I want you to continue to going through your own chart, because how you're going to see how these aspects, how they talk to themselves, and you're going to start to correlate them with how you talk to yourself, because the planets are different voices in your head. They're different parts of our brain. So you hear of people being like bipolar or, schizophrenic. Well, astrologically speaking, or, even with like shamanic type of philosophy, we all have multiple voices in our heads. Okay. It's just, if like some people, I was taught by a shaman teacher of mine that schizophrenics are essentially psychics that just don't understand how to control the energy. It's like they hear all these voices, but but they don't know how to interpret them. It's too much. It's too strong. Now, you know, imagine in the Western world if everybody took that approach to mental health, acknowledging these things and helping them navigate them. Wouldn't that be beautiful? So when someone's bipolar, most of the time they usually have two very powerful polarities in their charts. So this is how you can see how people really psychologically act in their life. And and when people understand this about themselves, they're like, holy shit, okay, it all makes sense now. It's all about accepting these different archetypes in the mind, in the body, and not trying to put a label on them, because that label makes you feel like something's wrong with you. When you feel like something's wrong with you, you feel like something needs to be fixed. And when you feel like you need to be fixed, you feel like you're broken. When you feel broken, you don't feel whole. And that's the whole problem with this entire thought process in this world. We have to turn this around. And the age of Aquarius coming together is holistic. It's coming from the heart, okay? So this essentially bringing all these different archetypes, learning the aspects of the planets, which are vibrations in our consciousness, bring it all together is learning who we are, and it is holistic. It is the very core of our essence of learning and describing our consciousness. And the more we know our own consciousness, the more that we're able to help other people understand their own consciousness. Isn't that amazing? Woo! All right. So the planets, including the sun and the moon, which are also referred to as planets in astrology, even though obviously they are not planets. The sun and the moon are celestial bodies, okay? But I have to put this stuff in there just in case, you know, some different people learn different ways. I'm personally like a visual, like I have to like feel it and explain it like kinesthetic, but I'm trying to appease like, you know, like the more Virgo type of analytic aspect of everything here. Including sun and moon, which are also referred to as planets in astrology, even though obviously they are not planets, can be found approximately in a circle in the sky. Ignoring minor deviations from a perfect circle, the angular distance between the planets along the circle can be obtained. Certain angles are known as aspects. When planets are separated by these special angular distances known as aspects, the astrological influence of the planet combine together and affect the personality and behavior of a person. Like I was just saying, each aspect represents an archetype of our personality, okay? So here are the major and minor aspects. We're going to go over all of these, okay? So we have the conjunction, opposition, square, trine, and sextile are the major one. Then the semi-square, the semi-sextile, quincunx, sesquiquadrate, quindecile, decile, novile, binovile, quadnovile, quintile, biquintile, septile, biseptile, triseptile. Shoo! Are all those all minor aspects, okay? So what is an orb? All right. When an aspect occurs, it is usually not exact. The orb is how far the aspect is from being exact. For example, two planets may be 92 degrees apart, in which case the orb is 2 degrees. Okay. There is not complete agreement on exactly how big allowable orb for an aspect should be. And this is where channeling comes into play. When you learn to understand the energy within yourself, how strong, how potent it is, like say you have like Saturn, you know, square to Pluto. If it's exact, it is affecting everything in your fucking life. All right. If it's like an orb of like 5, 6, or 7, then it's probably going to be kind of in the background and it affects you a little, but you're able to see it. Okay. And this is how, when you calculate it in your own consciousness, when you do your own chart, that's why it's so important to follow along with this stuff in your chart. Okay. So we're going to learn and get deeper into understanding the energies of these planets, the energies of the houses, and blending all these energies together. And the more you do this and the more you look at it and the more you look within, like literally, like you become like I was a psychology major in college, and this stuff helps me understand psychology and consciousness on a whole new level. Okay. In my opinion, astrology should be psychology in college. That's just me. Okay. So here we have an example, all right? So where's my cursor? guess I don't have my cursor available. Okay, so when planets are separated by these special angular distances known as aspects, the astrological influence of the planet combined together and affects the personality behavior of a person. The orb is how far the aspect is from being exact, okay? So right here, we have the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto. The Sun at 26 degrees, Mercury at 22 degrees. These are all in Virgo, and Pluto at 17 degrees. So these are all conjunct, right? By the way, on the left here, you see the little slash next to it. On the right, you see with the circle, that's the degree. On the left, you see the 31, the 29, the 23. Those are the minutes. So each degree has a degree and a minute, okay? If you really want to get picky, okay, when there is an exact conjunction, it is to the exact degree and exact minute. But really, especially the slower planets, if it's in the exact degree, you feel it. Okay, it's more for like the faster moving planets that become exact, where you have to really slow it down to see the exact minute, or for very specific things, because astrology, you can use astrology for everything, right? So look, we have 26 minus 22. All right, it equals 4. There's a 4-degree orb between the Sun and Mercury, and then we have 22 minus 17. All right, which is the distance between Mercury and Pluto. And so Mercury and Pluto are conjunct with a 5-degree orb, okay? The Sun and Mercury are conjunct at a 4-degree orb. Mercury and Pluto are conjunct at a 5-degree orb. Make sense? Too easy, right? All right, certain degrees of angularity are very important to astrology. They are called the major aspects. These are the conjunction, which is 0 degrees, the sextile, which is 60 degrees, the square, which is 90 degrees, the trine, which is 120 degrees, and the opposition, which is 180 degrees. Now, aspects are given a margin in which they have an influence. For example, although the square aspect is 90 degrees, two planets that are 95 degrees or 85 degrees apart are still considered to be in a square aspect. This margin of influence is called the orb in astrology, okay? In the example of 95 degrees, it is considered a square aspect with an orb of 5 degrees since it is deviated 5 degrees from an exact square. An allowable orb is the amount by which the two planets involved can deviate from the exact number of degrees of the aspect and still be considered to have an aspect influence, meaning you'll still be able to feel the energy of it. Most astrologers use an allowable orb of only 6 degrees for the major aspects and 2 to 3 degrees for the minor aspects. However, the allowable orb is increased to 10 degrees or 8 if it includes the sun or moon, because those are the two primary energies of our energy, and I would include the ascendant there as well when you're doing astrology for a person. This is a matter of preference, but in fact, the smaller the orb, the more significant the aspect is, meaning the stronger you feel the energy, with orbs of less than 1 degree being the most potent aspect influence. I would also say that planets, that the outer planets, when they have a bigger orb, like a higher number orb, you'll still feel them like pretty much throughout your entire life. Okay, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. Those planets right there. Even I would give it up to a 10 degree orb. If they're in your natal chart, you will still feel them. Okay. In this example, the sun and the moon are in square aspect. Okay, they are 90 degrees apart. As you can see by the angle formed by the gray lines, however, astrologers do not label aspects like that because it would just create a freaking mess. Instead, the angular relationships are denoted by a single line connecting the two planets and aspects. And I'm going to show you this when I actually give you an example of what I'm doing, okay? Thus, in any astrology chart, the square aspect will be denoted by a line like the red one in this example. All right, so I'm hammering this in here because you really have to understand what this means as the foundation to move forward and come into the more advanced stuff. Okay, a circle is divided in 360 degrees. The planets are approximately in a circle called the elliptical plane. The circle of the ecliptic plane is divided into 12 equal sections of 30 degrees each. That's the zodiac. Each of these 30-degree sections is given a name. The first 30 is Aries, second one is Taurus, which is actually from 30 to 60 degrees of the circle. The third one is Gemini, 60 to 90. The fourth one is Cancer, 90 to 120, followed by Leo, 120 to 150, Virgo, 150 to 180, Libra, 180 to 210, Scorpio, 210 to 240, Sagittarius, 240 to 270, Capricorn, 270 to 300, Aquarius, 300 to 330, and Pisces, 330 to 360 consecutively. Okay, so for example, the sun is in 7 degrees Virgo in your natal chart. This means that the sun position is in the sky when you were born was 157 degrees in the sky. Does that make sense? You look down at Virgo. Virgo is between 150 and 180 degrees. The sun is in 7 degrees of Virgo, so it's at 157 degrees in the aspect of the entire zodiac. Okay. Now, let's say, for example, Saturn is in 12 degrees Capricorn in your natal chart. This means that Saturn's position in the sky when you were born was 282 degrees in the sky. Get it? Based on the above two examples, we have located the 2 planets in your natal chart. Now we can tell what the angular distance between these 2 planets are in your chart. Therefore, Saturn and the Sun have an angular distance of 125 degrees from each other. We know that 120 degrees is 4 zodiac signs apart. In our example, Saturn is in Capricorn and the Sun is in Virgo. Therefore, they are 4 zodiac signs away from the Sun. The angular distance between the 2 planets in our example, however, is 125 degrees. This extra 5 degrees is called the orb. Okay? Aspects are angular distances between planets that are considered by astrologers to cause the 2 planets to interact with each other. The orb is how far from exact the aspect is. I think you guys probably have it by now. All right, so let's look into what these major and minor aspects mean. All right, so we have the conjunction. Conjunction is the most powerful aspect and combines 2 planets in a single force, meaning that they're connected together. Okay, they're sitting on top of each other. The energy is combined. A conjunction is an angle of approximately 0 to 10 degrees. An orb of approximately 10 degrees is usually considered a conjunction. However, if neither the sun or the moon is involved, some consider the conjunction to be a separation of orb of only about 0 to 8 degrees. This is said to be the most powerful aspect, intensifying the effects of the involved planets mutually and being a major point in the chart. We're going to get more into this when we talk about the chart for December 21st of 2020, because we have a major aspect of a conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn, okay, at 0 degrees of Aquarius, which is huge. All right. Now, also this year we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and we've had Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter sitting in Capricorn for this entire year. All right, within about a 3 to 5 degree orb of each other for the entire year. So you can see all the crazy shit that's going on in the world. You can see how that's been really and Capricorn rules the structure, it rules government, it rules like our 3D reality, right? Pluto rules death and transformation. Jupiter puts a magnifying glass on everything. And that is exactly what the fuck is going on in the world. All right, whether the union is to be regarded as positive or negative depends upon what planets are involved. Venus, Jupiter, and the Sun in any possible combination is considered the most favorable scenario. And all 3 actually met on November 9th and 10th, 1970, for example. While the most unfavorable configuration involves Mars, Saturn, and or the Moon, with all 3 conjoining March 10th the same year. If the planets are under stress from other configurations, then the conjunction will be said to intensify the stress. So we have malefic and benefic planets. The Sun is typically benefic. Venus is typically considered benefic. It also depends on what sign it's into. Jupiter is the benefic. It's like the man when it comes to, good shit. The malefics typically are Pluto, Saturn, and Mars. Okay, Mars is like the warrior, right? It wants to go out there and make shit happen. It wants to fight. It wants to win the war. Saturn is about control and constriction, and Pluto is about death and rebirth. And I mean, death and rebirth is great, and discipline and stuff is great, but it's hard. It's difficult. It's like it creates growth through pain. Okay, and we don't like it, but it's necessary. We need to have a balance of all of it. Okay, so sextile. These are the planets having sex. Sextile is a strong harmonious aspect, but less powerful than a trine. A sextile is an angle of 60 degrees, 1/6 of the 360 degree ecliptic, or 1/2 of a trine, that is 120. A separation orb of 6 to 4% is considered a sextile. The sextile has been traditionally said to be similar in influence to the trine, but of less significance. It indicates ease of communication between the 2 elements involved. Ease of communication, I would say it's a little more like, ooh, yeah, let's go. With compatibility and harmony between them, but only provides opportunity, requiring effort to gain its benefits. Literally think of sex, okay? You have to take action to have the benefits, right? You have to exert energy. Now, a trine would be like just laying down and receiving oral. Okay, I hope you guys don't mind the sexual references, but I think it's pretty funny, and it's going to be implanted in your mind and is never going to leave. Square is a strong but less powerful than the opposition and creates friction between planets. A square is an angle of 90 degrees, 1/4 of the 360 ecliptic, or 1/2 an opposition. An orb of somewhere between 5 and 10 is usually allowed. As with the trine and the sextile, in the square, it is usually the outer or superior planet that has an effect on the inner or inferior one. Basically, the square's energy is similar to that of a trine, but it is intensified to such an extent that the energy is said to be stressful. The square's energy is similar to that of a trine in that is basically the exact opposite of a trine. It's like trine is like boom, it's done, it makes it happen. A square is like boom through tension. A trine is like boom, like a slip and slide that has like lube on it, right? And a square is like a slip and slide that isn't wet yet, and you gotta rub Jello all over yourself to slide down, but it's a little unpredictable. Trine is the most powerful harmonious aspect, bringing the planets together in an easy combination. A trine is an angle of 120 degrees, 1/3 of the 360 ecliptic, an orb of somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees. The trine indicates harmony and ease. The trine is a source of artistic and creative talent, which is an innate. The trine has been traditionally assumed to be extremely beneficial. So grand trines in a chart are great. However, grand trines can also make you kind of lazy because it just comes to you, right? So whenever we have like a grand trine in a chart, but then we also have a bunch of squares and oppositions, that's actually a really good thing. You have tension and you have ease. So you're working hard, and then those certain things just come to you that you need to feed the stuff that you're working hard at. Okay? So opposition is extremely powerful and places the planets in conflict with each other, producing difficulties but increasing the range of possibilities open to the individual. An opposition is an angle of 180 degrees, half of the 360 ecliptic. An orb of somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees is usually allowed. The oppositions are said to be the second most powerful aspect. It resembles the conjunction, although the difference between them is that the opposition causes exaggeration and it is not unifying like the conjunction, but instead exalted. Okay, so this is like the way that I see this is when there's an opposition, whatever the opposition is, like say it's like the sun opposed Saturn. Okay, you are the sun, and Saturn is everything that's in your experience in your environment. So things are going to come at you from your reality that are going to make things difficult to transform you, to stress you into change. Okay. So the tense aspects cause friction between the planets involved. This friction brings difficulties and problems, which may be psychological, environmental, or a combination of the two. In coping with these problems, many people experience failure, but some will be driven to overcome their difficulties and in the process develop their astrological potential. The harmonious aspects brings an easy relationship between the planets involved. They provide a helpful environment for innate abilities, which the individual may take for granted, but fail to develop fully. Each type of aspect, therefore, has two faces. The tense aspects bring difficulties which can result in great achievement, while the harmonious aspects bring easy conditions which can lead to wasted opportunities. It is preferable to have a balance of tense and harmonious aspects. Individuals with only harmonious aspects may have plenty of potential but no drive to develop it, while those with only tense aspects may lack the faith and optimism to overcome difficulties. There are 9 aspects in common use: the 5 major aspects, conjunction, opposition, trine, square, and sextile, and 4 minor aspects: the semi-sextile, semi-square, sesquiquadrate, and quincunx. The quincunx is also known as an inconjunct. Now, I went a little further and jumped into like a few more, but you'll get those here in a little bit. So now we're going to jump into the minor aspects, all right? So the semi-sextile is basically a sextile cut in half, right? It's like half the power. These are going to be more subtle energies. So once you figure out like the majors, like we're going to start with the majors, right? We're going to look at your birth chart, and I want you to start with your major aspects only and start to look at and feel into the interaction between the planets and the houses. So you have to remember the energy of the house and the planet first, and how those energies mingle. So you have, say you have, you know, Saturn in Leo and, you know, Neptune in Pisces, in the 5th and 12th house, right? And they're sesquiquadrate. So, well, you know what, I'm going to get into a little bit, but you see how they're basically layers of energy. And once you embody the layer, like understanding how Saturn in Leo affects you in your life, and you understand how Neptune and Pisces in your 12th house affects you, and then you understand the aspect, now you can see where you struggle in your mind or where you have these difficulties. And once you understand that struggle or how they work, now you can consciously work to be the conscious observer of your own energy in a more specific and clear way and overcome it. This is how astrology works, right down to the core, okay? So semi-sextile is a circle divided by 12. This aspect is very mild, barely noticeable, almost insignificant. It is considered by some astrologers as mildly beneficial. But since it connects signs of different elements and qualities, it may actually be mildly difficult, awkward, or uncomfortable. This aspect should be interpreted by taking into account the rest of the chart for more insight. This minor aspect will usually corroborate with other things specified in the chart. So say if you have a sextile, a couple sextiles, and you want to know a little bit more, go a little bit deeper, then you can look in the semi-sextile and add that onto the sextile of the other aspects, right? So the semi-square is a circle divided by 8. This is similar to the square, but less intense. This aspect implies friction, generating minor internal conflict or frustration that can be annoying. All right. Sesquiquadrate, okay, also known as the sesqui-square, is 5/8 of a circle, or a square and a half. This aspect denotes the same friction as the semi-square, but this irritation tends to generate external difficulties, whereas the semi-square correlates more with inner conflict. Now, on top of generating external difficulties, the sesquiquadrate is also a past life aspect. So generally speaking, it's a past life lesson, or maybe like it could be a past life relationship or a past life gift, okay, that usually comes through learning through discipline, hard work, some frustration, some like annoyance, all right, or some kind of difficulty. But this toughens you up. This creates like energetic scar tissue to make you stronger. Strong like bull. The quincunx is 5/12 of a circle. Now, the quincunx is one of the main minor aspects, which I kind of feel like it's more of a major, okay? Especially if you have one in your chart. And really, especially if you have a yod in your chart. It's 2 quincunxes in a sextile that make up a yod, okay? This aspect demands continual adjustments. It is not necessarily negative, but it brings strain, some difficulty, or stress. This can sometimes affect the health. It can indicate circumstances that are forced upon the person or self-neglect regarding that area of life. A lot of empaths have a lot of quincunxes in their chart that create this like always chasing some kind of feeling that you just can never put your finger on, right? It's like, damn it, what the hell is this? The way through the quincunx to work with it is to clear it out and allow it to go through you, sort of like wind through a screen, right? You can't put your finger on, you know, what it is. It's not, it has no form. Therefore, this is more of like an energy. This is more of like an energetic type of, and I think that's why this is a minor aspect, because it doesn't really have form. Like the opposition, the conjunction, they have form. Quincunx is weird. It's awkward. It doesn't, you never seem to be able to figure it out or put your finger on it, but that teaches you to let go, to surrender. This is a major surrender energy, okay? Quindecile. The quindecile is 165 degrees aspect that suggests unrelenting motivation, obsession, determination, upheaval, disruption, even separation. The planets connected through this aspect are under high developmental tension, almost as much as conjunction, square, or opposition. So when I go into doing the little chart, I'm going to go through each aspect one at a time so you can see what's what, okay? So the quindecile, this one is fairly minor. The decile, so the decile, quindecile, these are actually sort of like in the same family, right? Decile is a minor aspect where the planets involved are 36 degrees apart with the orb of 1 degree. The more minor the aspect, the less of orb that's involved because it's already sort of insignificant. So this is where when we're really, really digging deep into very subtle energies, okay? This aspect is asking for us to apply an ability practically to help support others, as well as showing us where untapped potential lies. A lot of these two can have to do with like psychic abilities or intuitive or energetic abilities, okay? So now we have the novile, the binovile, the quadnovile. The novile degrees of zodiac is every 40 degrees taken from 0 degrees Aries to 10 degrees Taurus, 20 degrees Gemini, 0 degrees Leo, 10 degrees Virgo, 20 degrees Libra, 0 degrees Sagittarius, 10 degrees Capricorn, 20 degrees Aquarius. The binovile is every 80 degrees and the quadnovile is every 160. Get it? People with these degrees prominently carry the novile energy regardless of whether they have a novile pattern or not. Noviles always describe an initiation, and a natal chart describes the initiation to be undertaken in this lifetime. The level of intensity is described by the planets and signs involved in the novile aspect pattern. If a person has moon novile Pluto, then the level of emotional intensity will be very high, right? So this is sort of like feeding onto the major aspects. If novile aspects are connected in a novile pattern, it suggests that this lifetime is part of a series of initiations that to some degree or another have been successful. If the novile pattern involves a trine, this suggests the trine, indication of a successful initiation, enables a person to succeed with the other planets involved in the pattern. Okay, so this is adding on to other stuff. But, you know, this is a very shamanic aspect. Quintile and biquintile. All right. The quintile and biquintile are 72 and 144 degrees, respectively. These aspects are arrived at by dividing the circle into 5 and are best understood by looking to the symbology behind the number 5. What is the symbology behind the number 5? It means change, shifting. Actually, kind of a similar energy to the quincunx. All right. Quintiles and biquintiles point to talent, the desire to create order and to categorize a fascination with patterns and structures, perfectionist tendencies, and the desire to build or make things. These aspects in the fifth harmonic have the characteristics of both the trine and opposition. They point to awareness of conflicts or problems and finding solutions for them. This is like a communication and or a teacher, okay? So septiles are wisdom-seeking aspects. If a septile pattern is formed in the natal chart, it is often an indication that a measure of wisdom has been attained by the individual. All right, this could be from past lives. All right, septiles give an interest in an ability to comprehend realities other than the norm. So they fit well with the vertex axis, which gives access to other realities. This is a very psychic aspect, okay? If septile patterns involve outer planets, it is usually an indication of a person who is quite different to the normal run of humanity. Its negative side is that it can lose touch with reality that is considered normal. So this aspect will signify that the person needs to ground, that they are very like airy, right? They're out there a little bit, and that's okay. So now we'll go into aspect patterns. I want to go into the major ones here so you can kind of get a feel for how these, you know, interact and intersect. So 2 planets in opposition, there's a T-square. 2 planets in opposition are both in square with the 3rd planet. This brings tension and sharp, pressing problems, the result of which may be great energy and consequently a better than average chance of success throughout life, okay? When interpreting a T-square, all the factors involved, planets, signs, and houses, must be taken separately and then built up into a picture of the choices, difficulties, and solutions which each planet suggests. When the T-square is in cardinal signs, there is exceptional dynamism and energy. Fixed signs, people may be excessively stubborn, fighting personal battles to the bitter end. So you see, like this, T-squares, they sort of exacerbate the energy of the particular thing that's going on. Okay, mutable signs, they may try to solve and or even avoid the problem associated with the T-square by being flexible and adaptable. And if you notice, these are all just exacerbating the traits of the feel of the different signs. Okay, so what's the solution to a T-square? There's always a solution, right? When you're looking at a chart. Okay, so here's example A, via harmonious aspect. So if you have a T-square in a chart that also has a harmonious aspect, like a trine attached to it, then the tension of the T-square can be released or positively expressed through the planet, which makes the closest sextile or trine to any of the 3 planets in the T-square. In this example, the emotional tension of the Sun, Mars, Saturn T-square can be released through the sextile to Jupiter and Cancer. All right, so when you're looking at a natal chart, we want to look at all these connections. Okay, so we identify the difficulty or the problem, and then we identify the route to the solution. So you can help somebody understand their own consciousness. You can help yourself understand your own consciousness and how to navigate and process it more efficiently. Isn't this cool? So what about the development of opposite characteristics? All right, so like, you know, say if there's something going on, but there's no other aspect or a difficult aspect. Okay, the tension of the T-square focuses on the planet at the apex. In this case, Venus, and the part of the chart immediately opposite may also act as a focus for problems. By coping with them, the whole situation can be eased and turned to advantage. In this example, Venus in the 8th house, square to Uranus and Saturn, suggests business difficulties. This may bring second house problems, personal financial ones with an inability to handle money. By learning how to deal with these issues, the 8th house problem and the whole T-square can be helped. So this is where the native will really have to buckle down and face and feel and go through working through these issues within themselves. Like if they don't like doing their finances, they're going to have to sit down and just do it. And they might get triggered and be pissed off while they're doing it. But once they get it done, they've learned a whole lot, right? That's the point. Here is a Grand Cross. The Grand Cross consists of 4 planets connected by 4 squares and 2 oppositions. In effect, this consists of 4 T-squares. And although the process of interpretation is essentially the same as that for a T-square, the complexity and possibilities are considerably more varied. This pattern is not necessarily more dynamic than a T-square. It's just a lot more stuff going on. When the Grand Cross is in cardinal signs, problems and difficulties are more likely to result in energetic and assertive behavior. All right, cardinal signs like to go, like to make shit happen, right? Fixed signs, people may hang on to their problems and be exceptionally stubborn and resistant to change. Again, just exacerbating the traits of these particular signs. So they really have to work on like meditating and letting things go and allowing things to flow, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them. So they may have to do it through exercise or some kind of like active form of like meditation, like maybe going hiking or something. Mutable signs may be very adaptable, but may also exacerbate their problems by evading them. These guys, they just want things to change. So it's like, oh, just gonna like avoidance behavior, okay? Grand Trine, now this is like great, right? Great as long as you have something to keep you motivated and inspired to make shit happen. 3 planets are connected by 3 trines to form a triangle. Grand trine around which planetary influences circulate with ease. This brings a wealth of natural talent indicated by the signs and houses containing the planets, but may require tense aspects to provide the motivation for its expression. When the Grand Trine is in fire signs, talent lies in enthusiasm and the search for new possibilities. Earth signs, talent lies in practical work and experience. Air signs, talents lie in the intellectual work and communication of ideas. In water signs, talents are rooted in sympathy, compassion, and intuition. A yod. Now, a yod can be 2 semi-sextiles with an opposition and 2 quincunxes, okay? Or what we see more often is a sextile with 2 quincunxes. So a yod is also known as the finger of fate or the finger of God. Yod is named given to 2 planets in opposition connected to 2 other planets, one by semi-sextiles and the other by quincunxes. There is a consensus that this pattern is important, but few astrologers make much use of it. The 2 additional planets provide a choice of paths for the individual to express or discharge ascension of the opposition. Now, I have 2 yods in my chart, so I have really studied these extensively. And what I've come to the conclusion of is that yods represent a karmic or a deep soul burden or lesson that we have chosen to take on in this lifetime to evolve through or process or overcome that is ending the karmic cycle through family lineage, right? So say like everybody in our family, like we're usually like the odd ones out, or the redheaded stepchild, or the one that just moves away when everybody else stays around, or the one that just does everything different than everybody else in the family, right? But we do that because we need to get away from the family. We feel like we don't fit in. And when we face ourselves, we see these dysfunctional patterns of behavior within ourselves, and we work through them. We generally sort of like take whatever it is, you know, in our family and shift it and change it and end that karmic cycle. And there are a lot of people right now, like the empaths, light workers, starseeds, that have these aspects that are going on, especially in their progress charts right now. A lot of people waking up that are saying, wow, okay, this is what I'm meant to do here. And this is a very like no bullshit, you know, position. Okay, this is a lot of responsibility, and nobody will really understand it. It's something that we are called to do. It's like, you know, this life chose me. Okay, and it's a process of overcoming all these limitations that we see in our family lineage. And we are essentially the teachers of our family to transcend these karmic issues. Like say, like in your family, you have a family of alcoholics, or in your family, everybody got cancer, right? Well, you will be the one that will transcend this energy. Either you'll get cancer and you'll overcome it in a different way, like naturally as opposed to chemo, or you won't get cancer because you do the work, because cancer is essentially resentment and anger that's built up, that's suppressed or repressed, that we don't even know about. So overcoming these energies and evolving, it actually shifts the energy in the DNA of our family. So the buck stops here with you, and you do not pass it down through your lineage. Okay, very, very important to understand this. And if you resonate with this, okay, start, and you have a yaw in your chart, or looking at your progress chart, which we'll get into more in level 3. Okay, this is going to be huge, and it really help you understand why you've gone through everything you've gone through in your life, and what it all means at the very deeper level. Between that and Chiron, ooh, and if you have any aspects between Chiron and Pluto, man, you are the master of masters. You are the one that is going to change the world. And there are many people popping up and you know, right now in the world that are realizing this. So next we have the mystic rectangle. I'm sorry. This consists of 4 planets connected in a rectangle of 2 sextiles and 2 trines, together with 2 oppositions connecting the opposite planets. Despite the name, there is nothing mystical about this pattern. The combination of tense and harmonious aspects produce the best possible potential for the constructive use of natural talent. So this is actually a very balanced rectangle. Now, depending on what signs it's in, and depending on what aspects it have, this could actually be like a hidden like psychic gift, or like a hidden healing gift that is meant to come out into the world. All right, a kite. The person with a kite pattern may be a high flyer. All 3 planets in a grand trine are connected to a 4th planet, one by an opposition, the other 2 by sextiles. This is a useful combination of tense and harmonious aspects in which the 2 planets connected by trines and sextiles provide outlets for the tension of the opposition. This can also represent a healing gift, or a divination gift, or a psychic aspect. All right, now, here are some things to remember. Interpreting planets in the signs. The other thing to remember is that the planets in the signs will focus on the house. This means that the activity denotes by the planets will take place in the arena of your life, designated by the house in which the planets fall. Remember, each house represents a sphere of life, i.e. work, home, friendship. The planet is the what, the sign is the how, that what is done. And the house is where it takes place. Here is a handy reminder to use when interpreting your natal chart. The planet what? The planet is the what. So say Saturn, okay? The sign and Capricorn, how. The house, 10th, the 10th house, where. Planets, energies, what you like to do, what, okay? So Saturn is the energy, okay? It's constrictive, it's discipline, it's hard work, it's making shit happen. The sign, the way you do it, how. Capricorn is very, very serious, very like straightforward. If it was Cancer, it would be like emotional discipline. It would be like, you know, needing to, you know, create a safe space, you know, in the work environment. The house is area of your life, okay? The house, the 10th house is life purpose, it's your vision, it's your work, it's your career, it's what you're dedicated to for humanity, okay? So how do you approach your life purpose? Is it Capricornian? Does it need to be, you know, like you have a very long road, you know, you have to be very structured and disciplined, and are you gonna, like, you know, meet difficulties and overcome challenges and, you know, make shit happen and just never give up, or are you gonna be like, I don't know, Libra? All right, you want to create relationships and be the glue that binds everybody together. Okay, see how all this works. An example of why taking the house into consideration is so important. And here's another example again. Say a person has Saturn and Capricorn in the 7th house, which can manifest as a reserved Capricorn attitude in a love relationship, 7th house. Then say this same individual has Venus and Sagittarius in the 11th house. This person will be friendly and outgoing, Sagittarius, in social situations and groups, which is the 11th house, but unemotional and detached, although dependable in love relationships, Saturn and Capricorn in the 7th. Astrology is a powerful tool for understanding those seemingly contradicting tendencies that we all have. The birth chart tells it all. With time and patience, you'll be able to read all such details from a birth chart. So, you know, you ever been in a relationship where you're like, why can't you just be like this, right? Like, I've been told, like chill out. Like, why are you so intense? Like, can't you just relax? Fuck no, I can't relax. This is me. You have to accept me for me. But if I'm trying to be like something I'm not, then I'm clearly in the wrong relationship, right? So that's something that I had to learn, because that has happened to me a few times. House rulers, signs on the cusps. Another influence on each house in each department of life is the ruling planet of the house. The ruling planet of each house in your natal chart is a planet that rules the sign on the cusp. For example, if you have Capricorn in the 7th house cusp, then Saturn is a ruler of your 7th house. Because Saturn rules Capricorn, the result is that Saturn will have an influence in the matter of your 7th house, regardless of which house Saturn is actually residing in. Here is a table of the sign rulership, which I do not have that table, but I'm going to show you later in the actual chart. Okay, whereas planets in the house show actual circumstances. So, for example, Capricorn in the 7th house cusp denotes an attitude of reserve or caution towards forming a relationship. On the other hand, Saturn in the 7th house may denote actual problems transpiring in partnerships and in marriage. These are subtle differences that will perfect your interpretations when reading a birth chart. So a house is influenced by any planet residing in that house, but also by the ruler of the house. Most of the time, the ruler will be in a different house. Many times, the goods of the house will be used for advantage in the house where the planet ruler actually resides. For example, say you have Capricorn in the 7th house cusp and Saturn, Capricorn's ruler, in the 2nd house. You may very well choose to marry 7th house for money, ruler of the 2nd house. This last statement brings us to our next point, a word of caution. The celestial configurations that took place at your moment of birth is a powerful indicator of your motivations, drives, preferences, and psychological makeup, but it does not seal your fate. It does show the potential you were born with, but what you do with the potential is up to you. But the correct way to interpret a birth chart is to declare the drives, strengths, weaknesses, preferences, needs, tendencies, and so forth. Astrology reveals our inner psychological makeup. The outcomes are for the individual to manifest for him or herself. For example, above it was mentioned that if you have Capricorn ruling your 7th house and Saturn in the 2nd house, then you might marry for money. But the proper way to read that example is to declare that you have a need for security in your relationships. You have a need for security, but it does not necessarily mean that you will marry for money. You may very well choose to marry a pauper for true love, but be assured that your need for material security in relationships, as shown in your birth chart, will continue as a nagging feeling you won't easily be rid of. The natal chart is one's map, okay? This is why astrology is so important. Here's another example taken from history. Ancient astrologers, before psychology was popular, interpreted charts in a more fatalistic manner. If you were a Pisces, they would say that you would end up living in poverty, the starving artist stereotype. Therefore, you are such a weakling. Modern astrologers understand that deeper psychological drives and needs that are represented by the planets and signs. Nowadays, we understand that Pisces has a need to transcend the mundane. And while he is very artistic, he is not fated to live in poverty. Pisces simply does not prioritize money or materials. He could be poor or he could be rich. Either way, Pisces will prioritize the intangible over the tangible. which is how we interpret it today. The interpretation shifted from a predetermined fate, poverty, to a psychological drive, need for artistic, spiritual transcendence that may result in any circumstantial fate. So we have to remember too that any kind of therapy or any kind of coaching like this is filtered through our own subjective filtration system, right? So our own issues, our own drives, our own understandings of these energies. This is why knowing and understanding your own energy as objectively as possible is so important. That's why you really have to study your own consciousness. And, you know, many of you that are taking this course have already done a lot of work in personal development, okay? So it's important to be able to bring all these aspects together, okay? And whether you feel like you're ready to be a coach or not, like if people naturally come to you for advice, then you're already a coach, dude. So, you know, it's like, then you have to look at your fear. Like maybe you have Chiron in your second house, or, you know, Chiron in your eighth house, or Pluto in your second house, or some kind of difficult aspect. So this is where you're really able to zone in on, is this really my fate, or is this my fear, or what the hell is going on, and what do I need to learn? Okay. Memory aspects. Don't forget the aspects. If you attempt to make an interpretation without considering the aspects, you will be in error. Interpretations for each planet is sign and house must be modified according to the nature of the aspects. Aspects can soften things and bring ease to otherwise troublesome planetary placements, or they can bring conflict to otherwise pleasant planetary placements. Aspects stimulate the planets. Every planet has both easy and difficult or positive and negative manifestations. For example, the sun's energy can be expressed as a generous pouring forth of self and creativity, or prideful arrogance and an excessive desire to be special. Aspects from other planets tell whether the energies will be expressed easily and positively if it receives trines and sextiles, or with struggle and conflict if it receives squares and oppositions. Again, a birth chart interpretation without accounting for aspects is incorrect, or at least it is incomplete. Most important aspects to look for. Take immediate notice of conjunctions to any of the four angles. This means conjunctions to the ascendant, MC, descendant, or IC. When a planet makes a conjunction to one of the angles, the influence of that planet may be the strongest influence in the chart. The person will identify very strongly with the traits of that planet. This is explained in detail in the meaning of a planet in conjunction to one of your angles. Also take notice of conjunctions made by the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, to the inner planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. These conjunctions will drastically alter the interpretation for the inner planet by adding its own qualities. A conjunction from Uranus adds rebelliousness and innovation. A conjunction from Neptune adds confusion or sadness and or inspiration and magic. And a conjunction from Pluto adds power but can be a bit creepy. For example, a Leo sun person who has Pluto making a conjunction aspect with their sun will be very Plutonian. This person will be one of the most silent and secretive Leos ever. They will be definitely like, seem a little weird from the outside looking in, and super, super fucking deep, and probably be reading energy in a really, really deep way too. Okay, so balance of elements and qualities. Another thing to note is the balance of elements and qualities in the chart. If you feel overwhelmed with all this new information, then you should simply try this step first. This is the easiest interpretation that can be derived from a natal chart, even for inexperienced people. This is how it's done. Simply count how many are fire, air, earth, and water. Count the sun's and the moon's element for 2 each, because they are such a strong influence. It is common to have a combination of elements, say 3 or 4 of each. However, should you find an imbalance, such as 5 or more in an element or 0 to 1 of an element, this will say something about the overall temperament of the individual. 5 or more of one element make that the predominant element in the individual. It is interesting to note that the predominant element may be different from that of the sun sign. In this case, the person will behave even less like their sun sign, yet another reason why we cannot define a person simply by their sun sign. If a chart is completely lacking in an element, or if there is only one planet in an element, that will be considered the weakest element. The general interpretation on the following page will include interpretations for predominant and weakest elements. The same method is used to tally up the balance of qualities, cardinal, fixed, mutable of each planet, ascendant, and midheaven. This gives only subtle information unless you find a great imbalance, such as a complete lack of one quality or 6 or more of another. Okay, so this is This is where, like, say your sun sign is Capricorn, right? But you have a stellium or like 5 or 6 planets in Scorpio. Well, you're going to be acting more like a Scorpio with some Capricorn tendencies, right? And Scorpio is very fixed. So you're probably going to be super stubborn, which Capricorn can be stubborn too, but in a slightly different way. Okay, they can seem very mysterious. Like, they're also very good detectives. They're always trying to figure things out, and they're also very, like, they're connected to the underworld. Okay, they can also be very, very intuitive. So these are all things that we have to look at and work with. And I'm going to show you, like, can you see now how the channeling really comes into play when you're reading these energies? So once you start to channel and understand your own energy, man, it's a game changer, because then you start to see the same shit in everybody else, because essentially all these aspects and all these planets and houses, everybody has the same fundamentals. Okay, this is where just astrology is such a great teacher. Chiron is an asteroid, right? And Chiron was discovered in 1977, and Chiron is known as the wounded healer. Wounded healer, he was a great astrologer teacher who initiated healers, warriors, and magicians, and therefore we began in 1977 with those archetypal identifications. He was skilled at hunting, medicine, music, gymnastics, warfare, and astrology. He was the founder of the Asclepian, the ancient healing temple, and was the teacher of Achilles, Orpheus, Jason, Hercules, Peleus, and many other ancient healers and warriors. Divination power is awakened by the adept's ability to face the chaotic force, the red force, the Sethian force, like, you know, in Star Wars, like the Sith, all right, the dark side of the force, all right. This is the shadow self, all right. This is that part of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge, that we want to we run away from, that we are afraid of, that we need to feel, face, and accept. Chiron is always the master teacher for the adept who goes out on the quest. So this energy, we all have it in us, all in different ways, okay? And Chiron is the one that teaches us. It may be that thing that you always struggle with, but you're so damn good at. You just have this natural talent, natural gift, but it's like, it's almost like that thing that, like, you hate about yourself. You just want to go away, but that part that you want to go away just ends up being who you are, and it actually ends up creating, like, the best parts of you, okay? Chiron's lineage. Now, this is going into the mythology, of course. Chiron's lineage is evidence of extreme antiquity. His grandparents are Uranus, who is the sky father, and Gaia, Earth mother. His parents are Kronos, Saturn, and Rhea, Venus. But he was born of an illicit union between Kronos, Saturn, who took the form of a horse, and Philaria, a sea nymph. Therefore, Chiron is half animal and half human. He is of the earth and the sea, so he's earth and water, right? Chiron married a water goddess, and their daughter was Thea, which means shining one of the moon. Thea was an exceedingly famous early seer and astrologer. The birthing of the sea creature brings forth the integration of the feminine males who have the courage to pursue the path of the adept. Now, we're seeing this a lot right now in the world as we shift from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, which is why I'm bringing this into the mix, because this is going to be very important for the path that we are all taking right now. The union of the animal and man is right at the solar plexus. Notice that the phallus is on the horse body and not the man. This tells us that the struggle with good and evil powers is with Pluto and not with sex. Now, I'll be fair and say that Plutonian energy is essentially sexual energy, all right? But it's more than sexual energy. It goes way deeper than sexual energy. Sexual energy is Kundalini energy, okay? So it's not just the act of sex. It's the actual vibration of that energy, which is also the vibration of creative energy, okay? It is literally, Kundalini energy is life force energy. All right. So that is the struggle that we all have. All right. Um, is with Pluto, basically. Chiron is the teacher of the Earth connection to higher planes, and the sighting of Chiron means it is time for us to manifest our divinity. Also, we will find a way to stop polluting the Earth and being victimized by elemental destructive forces. This, humanity has destroyed the world, and the activation or the identification of Chiron has brought us into an era or a place that is bridging us from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, and activating our DNA and bring us into this higher vibrational space. And Chiron is attuned to both the instincts and the intellect, a warrior energy, which is protection of the feminine heart and mastery of skill. A lower manifestation can be seen as sexual confusion in modern spiritual teachers and gurus, which we're seeing come out a lot with this Saturn-Pluto conjunction that happened at the beginning of 2020. We're seeing all these, like, I think it was John of God, that was Oprah's spiritual guide, was like all this sex trafficking and pedophilia and stuff. This is all like the confusion of the Chiron energy mixed with the Plutonian energy from the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in 2020. Chiron's pupils came to him to discover their destiny, to have Chiron show them the pragmatic way to fulfill their highest potential. He taught the essential skills leading to the highest octave, which was first part of a 4-part process. Chiron first identified the gift of each pupil and then integrated the gift into full consciousness. Astrologers will be gifted with the power to identify the destiny and healing gift of their clients and initiate this into the awareness of the client. Chiron is the missing key to this work. The Chiron is the process of moving through the energy of Saturn, essentially. But when we understand Saturn and how all the other planets interact with Saturn, and how to evolve from the way that Saturn suppresses or controls us into the Kundalini energy of Uranus, this is where we evolve. This is the multi-dimensional energy that we're coming into. This is where shit gets really interesting, okay? The key to processing the Chiron energy is to embrace the relentless pressure of Saturn and leave it behind. The key to processing the Chiron energy is learning to let go, okay? Thereby, the activation of the Uranian Kundalini energy can be released. If you have past life trauma or illness someplace in your body during each lifetime, your higher self will try to push through that density point. The second step of self-mastery is the systemic clearing of the negative energies in the body, which involves some past life reassessment. If the Saturnian blocks are left uncleared, disease begins in the blocks. Each incarnation is a chance to clear past life blocks and become whole in this lifetime. And this is where we see the outliers and the redheaded stepchildren, or the ones that the empaths and the indigos and the starseeds. Chiron plays a major factor for the evolution of consciousness. And before consciousness can become what it's going to be, inevitably, we have to shift it. So we were chosen in this lifetime, right now, okay? And 40 years, behind 40 years in the future, I would say, right about now in this era, we are the ones that came into this incarnation to make the transition from the third density to the fourth density, or the third dimension to the fifth dimension, however it is you choose to understand it. A higher vibrational density is where we're going, and Chiron is the bridge. When Uranian electro and Neptunian magnetic energy are infused with Saturn form, oracular and divination skills flood the consciousness, which is phase 3 in the self-mastery process. There's a 4-phase process of self-mastery. The 4th phase is mastery of death. If you let yourself become instinct, you will find the way of the wolf. You will know how to live without rational form. You will just be and not do. The Chiron energies will teach us to let go of fear so that we can embody Eros, Uranus, and not generate imbalances in disease. Chiron is the guide that shows us how to embrace Pluto energy, that of death and rebirth. Chiron was a teacher who taught healing by means of clearing and bravery, and then letting go without fear when the time comes. A teaching of clearing that which isn't strong and healthy. Chiron deals with Pluto willingly instead of avoiding the underworld till the very last second. So it's when we avoid Chiron, shit goes bad. Chiron is the magician in tarot, yet also Chiron is the tarot reader. He hints by his essence and animal-human form fusion that the way to mysticism, Neptune, is through the body. So literally, this brings everything together. My book that I wrote, Decrypting the Language of the Human Body. Okay, this is essentially the work of Chiron in understanding the navigation from Saturn to Uranus. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So let's get back into it. Okay, so Chiron is the magician in tarot, yet also the tarot reader. He hints by his essence an animal-human form fusion way to mysticism. Neptune is through the body. Chiron will yield the secret to the true essence of the seventh house, the other. All right, so through the mirror reflection of connecting with others, we learn about ourselves. Chiron rules the process of work since it rules the sixth house. The process matters as much as the end result. So the modern ideology is that Mercury rules the sixth house. Mercury also rules Gemini, okay? But in esoteric astrology, okay, this is getting more esoteric or more, spiritual or occult, all right? Chiron rules the process of everything that we do. Think about the process of awakening, okay, which is a very, a real and big thing going on right now. Chiron rules, and in order to understand the process of the awakening, you have to understand how Chiron functions, okay? So when you learn to experience, because Chiron is experiential, so when you learn to experience this and allow it to go through you, things, growth, Kundalini activation just happens faster and faster and faster, all right? So here we go through Chiron through the houses. So look at your birth chart and see where Chiron is in your birth chart, okay? So Chiron in the first house, this will always be conjunct the ascendant. Chiron's presence in the first house signifies that Chiron individual will play a I spelled that wrong, a chirotic role in this lifetime. They will embody chirotic energy in their sense of self and how they express themselves. I have Chiron in my first house, so I am a prime example of chirotic energy. Successful manifestation of this energy is seen as charismatic, unforgettable, and a true leader of consciousness unfoldment. When the energy is blocked, which will appear periodically in any lifetime, the individual is like a blocked dam of nervous energy. They are still watched by everybody as if it is only a matter of time until the obvious spiritual force will be actualized. These individuals will find it impossible to just be ordinary. And when they go through an ordinary phase in their life, they almost go crazy with nervous energy, and I can attest to that. Becoming conscious of this energy will help this native better direct this energy. They require a stable and nurturing domestic environment and must ground themselves solidly, directly, and consistently. The first house represents ego structure, the personality structure, the personality vehicle, which expresses the individual until their known essence is mature, understood, and activated. Egoic Chiron structures are seen in healers that think that they are the healing force. As long as this idea is coveted, the energy will short circuit, unground them, and destroy the stability they require. If they can learn to let the energy go out of themselves freely, they will find manifestation, i.e. what they think about is what's happening, okay? So thought is life, basically, all right? Chiron in the second house. The second eighth house polarity describes the life values of the native. It shows what is needed on the material plane to be comfortable and productive. This placement shows extreme interest in balance here. As the second house is ruled by Venus, the danger is the belief that these values are the only correct ones. They need to be encouraged to enhance their values because those values actually do involve the healing of the others if they are given out. But judgmentalism and fundamentalism must be watched closely. These people can be very, and you know, typically speaking, you know, Taurus rules the second house. Taurus is very, very stubborn, okay? The key to the second house is to help the native better define their values. If they can, they will be energized by Pluto and find inexhaustible resources within. But if it's through ego or willpower, then they will just become burnt out constantly, okay? Chiron in the third house. Chiron in the third house signifies a crisis of integration here on Earth that involves communication, agility, and personal mastery. There are usually issues with discrimination, and the native undergoes many wasteful experiences until maturation. This is coupled with unusual teaching and communication talents, which are usually utilized at a young age. This native needs to learn through making mistakes, which are often outlandish. Eventually, stubbornness gives way to solid single-mindedness, and more ease with life suddenly appears when mastery of some skill is accomplished. This native is often the one who instantly seems to comprehend your consciousness and/or is very blind about their own failures and discrepancies in the most mundane facets of life. If you are working with or close to someone with this placement, make sure you do not let them get away with not seeing where they are failing in general. Like they can come to you and seem like they are teaching you. Okay, if you're not solid in yourself, they can actually manipulate you without even realizing they're manipulating you. Okay, this placement also has difficulty with sexual confusion that has been greatly exacerbated through modern media. They also have great potential to become great teachers and healers through media. So, you know, think Dr. Phil, right? So this is like there's a shadow archetype, and then there's a light archetype. And generally speaking, we experience or express the shadow archetype in our life. And then once we become aware of it, we face the Saturnian blocks that keep us in that shadow aspect and allow this energy to go through us and teach us and evolve into the Uranian aspect, which allows us to access Neptune and Pluto energies, okay? Chiron in the fourth house. Chiron in the fourth house signifies that the deepest healing of the self will come from a connection with roots. This native must heal his or her deepest roots to discover who they are. Each person who heals themselves heals the planet simultaneously. This is significant in present times as a great awakening takes place. The more people who do this work, the more the collective consciousness is healed. This placement is on the front lines of this work. These natives are intense, brooding, deep, and often nervous. What they need most is to heal themselves because their own level of personal disturbances unnerves everyone and everything around themselves. But they are so intense that they often think spending energy on themselves is selfish. They need to be shown that their ability to heal their own wounded nature will teach them to heal many others. They embody the wounded healer, okay? These natives also suffer early childhood trauma, which marks the psyche. They know about pain because they have lived in intensely. The highest vibration of this power is found in natives who are living lives full of compassion. To attain this, they must master their root chakra, feel safe within themselves. Now, right now in the entire world, the root chakra is being blasted, okay? No one feels safe in the world right now with the COVID-19, with, you know, like these pandemics or, you know, all these agendas like the New World Order and all these things that these billionaires and whatnot are trying to bring into our future. You know, it's either going to be a dystopia or a utopia. There's a split going on in our consciousness. And the more people that wake up to their Chiron energies and face these things, the more we are going to be able to bring into this utopian type of society. Now, Chiron in the fifth house always creates a powerful sense of the child within. And this child can be a monster demanding first place or a powerful generator of creative energy. The monster will not have creative energy, just FYI. Okay, that's the blocked aspect of Chiron. The fifth house always involves ego issues. The ego attachment cathexized by Chiron here is an erotic and creative dynamic which can only be released by experience. Again, Chiron is an experiential process. As Chiron energy is experiential, therefore sexual behavior patterns are unusual, and this is the behavior issue that is kept most secretly hidden. This requires a mature understanding of Kundalini Uranian energy. A lot of this is basically activating and working with our life force, our Kundalini energy. If you have not read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, you should definitely read that book. That's the first personal development book I ever read. And that book talks about our sexual energy, or like look into Kundalini yoga, or, different types of, life force energy practices. Okay. We need to have control over our sexual energy, or it will control us and it'll just create havoc in our lives. Okay, this is essentially Chiron energy is about getting control of your sexual energy. Okay, these natives create a murky and demanding sexual dynamic with themselves, or they create experiences with others for sexual experimentation, which will teach them what they need to know. The goal here is to get them to talk about the hidden side, which is not easy, but once they do, Chiron is a very vulnerable energy, right? So anything hidden, anything that people are ashamed or embarrassed or afraid to speak of, this is that Chiron energy. Once we bring it out and we feel that shame, that guilt, that stuff that we stuff down that we don't want anybody to know about, then we're vulnerable, and then we realize, oh, it's not that bad. Then we evolve, then we grow, then we open up our chakras, we open up our energetic centers, and we evolve. Okay. To help them see that they are learning by their behavior, and to always emphasize the importance of sexual love. Help them calm down the demanding child within, learn to shift energy from sacral to heart chakra. Helping them to attain a conscious expression of their sexuality is very helpful. Okay, Chiron in the 6th house. Chiron in the 6th creates a significant connection with medicine and or healing. They become adept at sensing and identifying energy in the body as they learn to transcend the Saturnian control and open up to the Uranian expression of creative energy. The body-mind balance is critical for this native because Chiron's rulership of this house is a prime example of how we must know Chiron by experience. Our actual experiences in work and our search for a meaningful goal in life are our healers. The work of the 6th house is very much like the Saturn return. So if anybody's older than 30, you go through your Saturn return, it's like everything changes. After the 2.5-year period of time, nothing is the same, okay? In which Chiron in the 6th, doubling the influence, the ability to release power of the 6th house involves knowing one's individual form and matter. What am I? Okay. The key here is in learning to sense the electrical body energy as it flows first in themselves, and on letting the Uranian energy flow without resistance. Body energy integration results from careful creation of Saturn form in a life. The careful building of experiences, relationships, and values which do not block self-expression. Chiron in the 6th symbolizes the working out of transformation energy in form as a karmic issue. So yes, you're going to have to work through some karmic issues, and it's going to change you. Again, this is very transformative energy, and everyone goes through this energy at some point in their life to some level or some degree. Those with Chiron retrograde in the 6th house can reactivate past life healing skills in this lifetime, and that is freaking awesome. Chiron in the 7th house. This is a very interesting one. Chiron in the 7th house signifies a dynamic of knowing the self through significant relationships on the personal level and strongly affecting other people on a mass scale. This position is the essence of charisma. They have huge potential to express the collective unconsciousness in their time, and they have an uncanny ability to mirror the self-image of other people. These natives crave the adoration and adulation of others. Identification of this energy is a revelation to the native. They need to understand how they are affecting the people around them, or the intensifying adulation will attach the personal ego and destroy them. So basically, if they're not able to objectively observe other people's energy or their own energy with everything, they basically believe that the other, like how the other person is feeling is their own, and they take that on in their own ego, and they lose their own identity. So these people have a very difficult time identifying who they really are. This placement represents maximal distortion of who we are. Who we are will always be distorted in the perceptions of the self by others until we master polarity. They have a crisis about knowing who they are in relation to the other side. Their concrete awareness of the effect they have on others will release their inner gift. They cannot see the forest through the trees and require sympathetic, powerful help with the difficulty they are having interpersonally. Chiron in the 8th signifies a titanic struggle with karmic crisis with deep earthly Plutonian desires, sex, money, power, and immortality. They often spend their whole life conniving to control others and take away their money. Because Chiron teaches through experience, the result is murky and traumatic experiences for everyone involved. True power needs to be experienced in order to confront the unconscious desires for absolute control and immortality. These natives are most dangerous to self and others when they have no power of their own. This native has a penetrating mind, a great facility for exacting research, and an intense understanding of primal life forces. These people are like tractor beams. Pulling me right in. Who knows that reference? Eventually, this native will be drawn to the occult because, eventually they're going to want to understand why and how they affect people like this. But they face a special danger because they may tend to misuse power or allow themselves to become the tool of a teacher, right? So they find someone that understands them, that looks up to them, and then their teacher tells them what to do, and then they willingly give their power away. Then they are basically the catalyst, like a robot, for someone else, and that is incredibly dangerous because they are very, very powerful. Sort of like reminds me of Apocalypse in the X-Men, right? They have much potential as a powerful occultist, but they must never give their power away. Extra work needs to be done on clearing pain and confusion from early childhood trauma. Much trauma is to be cleared from this native. They have a lot of karmic trauma in this natives that have Chiron in the 8th house. Chiron in the 9th house. Chiron in the 9th house signifies crisis of connecting with the higher self in this incarnation. The higher self is the wisdom energy that is the integrating spiritual force of each lifetime. They are naturally interested in philosophy and spirituality. These natives possess an unusual ability to find ways to express essential universal values. They nervously search for meaning. They tend to feel driven to know ultimate truths and convey them in others. They naturally embody spirituality, wisdom about the natural law. But the crisis is always over resonation with the higher self. This is the adept that teaches everyone else to know the soul while longing intensely for ensoulment. It's like they can help everybody else see how to connect with themselves, but they themselves can't figure out how to connect. And this is a very deeply, can be a very deeply frustrating energy. This will require a lot of mental mastery. Special attention should be given in resonating with the ascendant energy in the birth chart. This will help them find their higher self because the ascendant represents how we are perceived out in the world, how we go out into the world, right? So when we really break it down and get into the depths of the personality traits of the ascendant, this will help them see it from the other side, the other point of view, and really see like a more complete perspective of who they are. This house represents bringing the highest octave of consciousness into life. It is the union of body and soul, metaphorically expressed by the horse-man body of Chiron, which is essentially, decrypting the language of the human body. So this is what Chiron is. Chiron in the 10th house. Chiron in the 10th house signifies a crisis about manifesting true purpose on the earth plane. The 10th house is pragmatic and is the essence of bringing matter into form. The 11th house is idealistic and limitless and is the essence of stretching ourselves to the highest potential gifting. The 10th house will always be a driven house because that is where we get the planetary juice, but only because a sacred power if we are prepared to give it all away in the 11th. This native is not seeking power for power's sake, but seeking power for release to Uranus, okay? They have authority, although they may be trying not to take it on. It's like they have the power, but they don't want it. They possess power, although it may stir conflict in their being. Basically, they wear a mantle of power, and the only solution for them is to accept their power. And this is where the internal struggle is like, no, I don't want it. No, if you haven't seen the movie King Arthur, check that movie out, because that's a great example of this. The more these natives identify their own power expression and live it out, the better they feel. The key here is mastery of power as a sacred gift. They must accept their birthright of much needed leadership with sensitivity. These people make the greatest leaders, like my good friend Victor Otto has Chiron in the 10th house, conjunct his North Node too. Chiron in the 11th signifies a crisis over the possibility of playing unique role in culture. This house is all about giving our creative gift during our lifetime to the world. This aspect is a serious crisis over creativity and idealism. Chiron in the 11th stimulates Uranus to create an outlet for the works of the 10th. If the power of Uranus is not released, the native has no vehicle for self-expression. We must recreate the love of individuality, uniqueness, and learn to appreciate the gift of each person. This native has a strong inner feeling of a great destiny, which may be impossible to attain and even express. If they are attached to their ability to make their goal, first of all, they will not attain it. Secondly, they will get sick from the struggle. The highest level of awareness for them is the realization that the energy really flows when they just channel it. This is all about really working with Chiron energy is all about learning how to channel the energy. Not trying to, like, you have to understand how it works, but you have to be careful of not trying to figure it out with identifying it and then letting it go. Now, this will take some time because essentially at first we all try to figure it out, right? But in learning it, identifying it, you will, the more you learn, identify it, it'll be these subtle differences in your mind. When you finally get to a point where you're like, it clicks, I get it, okay, and then finally you experience it, and when you go through the whole process, then that's where it goes. And really, like, grandmother ayahuasca is what really taught me about how to process and work with this kind of energy. Now, Chiron in the 12th is a very, there are four, I'd say, like, fundamentally, like, difficult yet evolving of human consciousness, like, critical placements here, and they are the 1st, the 4th, the 10th, and 12th. Those four houses are really the people that are bringing, like, if you have those Chiron placements, those are the ones that really, really are going to be the leaders into this new world, okay? Chiron in the 12th signifies a potential to actuate cosmic immersion, to enter deeply into mysticism. This becomes real when they learn to use the pragmatic gifts of the 6th house to develop the acute awareness of the exact place and time of this dimension in relation to others. The development of a divination skill is required in order to release consciousness from left brain linear time thought process so that holographic brain functions materialize. And this may be very difficult to understand until you experience it. This is a very shamanic energy, okay? Working with, like Icaros and different plant medicines and processes that clear the energy or any kind of energy healing process is going to help you understand how this stuff works. All right. The 12th house is ruled by Neptune. And the only way to resonate with the Neptunian galactic vibration is to find a way to attune consciousness here on Earth with mysticism. This will be possible to attain after the native has mastered the will axis of the 5th and 11th houses. So you master your willpower. You master the, understanding, how to, like, when you tell yourself to do something, you do it, you don't do something else. Okay. That is the 5th and 11th house. Once that is mastered, then other things just start to sort of happen. Okay, and that these divination skills just start to come through, and you start to feel it, and you live more intuitively. Knowing the psychic labyrinth is a need for individuals with Chiron in this house. This placement will lead the consciousness revolution coming into the age of Aquarius, as the concept of duality, which is the age of Pisces, dies off, and we learn to heal without suffering, and we transform our healing method to activating the Saturn-Chiron-Uranus transmutation process. Now we'll go into Chiron through the signs. So check your birth chart real quick and see again. Now you looked at the house. Now we're going to see, like, depending on your ascendant, it's going to depend on where the sign is. So we need to blend these energies together. Okay. Chiron in Aries. When Chiron is in Aries, the search for identity predominates. And right now, transiting, we have Chiron in Aries. So all the babies born from, like, last year to, in 7 years, is going to have Chiron in Aries. It was also when it was first discovered, Chiron was in Aries back in 1977. So up till, I believe it was 78 or 79. 78, because I have Chiron in Taurus and I'm 79. When Chiron is in Aries, the search for identity predominates. Who am I? Why am I here? What do they all want from me? Also, life and death issues. Until there is a satisfactory issue, the native will be restless. Chiron's natural form as a warrior initiate is very attuned to Mars. Therefore, the answers will come. Okay, so Chiron works with Mars very, very well. Thank God. These natives are trailblazers. They're known as courageous people. They have quick actions to breakthroughs They have quick action to break through Saturn barriers and act idealistically with Uranus. The warrior energy is the most powerful manifestation for these natives. They need to develop a systemic discipline which will enable them to empower Chiron and get in touch with the potential power of the etheric plane. They are typically frustrated unless they are extremely active. And this is the general feel for what's going on right now, like for, you know, for about this decade, okay? It's a 7-year-long transit. So this is going to be dominating the energy and the collective consciousness for quite some time. Chiron and Aries will reveal the area of life where they can initiate progress. Limitation will drive them banana sandwich, aka crazy. Chiron and Taurus. Chiron and Taurus symbolizes a search for values on the material plane. They take the question of material values to a critical level. What is right or wrong, permanent or not, becomes a crisis. They really bring something to new into reality, but they are manifestors of material from other people who they believe in. They want to preserve the values they see in something which already exists. They are adept at coping well with few financial resources. These natives must look deeply at their value system in relationship to their creativity. Free will and the ability to act for justice is blocked without creativity. This system is valuable if it is being actively utilized. Otherwise, it functions as an opportunity to block chirotic energy. Often, these natives have bizarre sexual habits because of the strong influence of Chiron with Venusian energy, making them receptive to Kundalini energy. Okay. Yes, I have Chiron and Taurus in my first house. I guess maybe I have bizarre sexual. I'm not really sure. I've been working a lot on my sexuality and my sexual energy, you know, to keep that Kundalini energy going strong. I know I do channel energy through my body very, very strongly. Who knows? It is well, I'm sure somebody knows. It is important to acknowledge and reinforce the wonderful gifts that those with this placement are giving to culture. They are often great contributors who feel guilty about not making their own mark with something they have invented themselves. So this is a lot of guilt and shame that these guys have to work through and face and feel that vulnerability of that guilt and shame to transcend it. Okay. Chiron and Gemini. Chiron and Gemini symbolize a crisis about integration here on Earth, which affects balance in the nervous system. They are highly attuned to the consciousness of individuals around themselves and to mass awareness. Their crisis is to find new ways of perception and integration here. This group will become very important to the human race as they wake up and realize they possess the natal tool to understand and communicate about crises their parents suffered with. They must work to actuate their natural role as a teacher and communicator. This native's prime existential mission is to understand the way we think in order to affect change in our mental realities. The perception that what we think we create and realizing that we can change our realities through that change if we believe we can is the goal. And that's pretty much for everybody, but this is especially highlighted for these guys. These natives can feel where electrical energy is flowing within the body. They are very plugged into mass consciousness. So this can be a very powerful healer, like doing Reiki or theta healing, or, you know, working with some kind of like divination tool to process energy in the body. Now we have Chiron in Cancer. When Chiron is in Cancer, the native experiences crisis over cultural roots and or a crisis of personal protection. They see their own ability to feel safe and secure on the planet as a personal and cultural dynamic. And the ecological power of Chiron usually predominates over the personality crisis. This native is tied to the past and very threatened by the present Earth crisis. They have an intense insecurity dynamic which needs to be healed. The struggle to break Saturn control and let go to Uranus electricity is a very tough battle for those with this placement. This native can have a great struggle with alcohol because alcohol inhibits Saturn control in the short run. At all costs, these natives need to resonate with the power of their own willpower. They really, like, if they're not feeling connected to themselves, they're going to just feel completely out of sorts. They're not going to know who they are. These natives are meant to be leaders in the battle to alchemize the earth, but they have to alchemize themselves first. Chiron and Leo. Chiron and Leo represents a great crisis over the ego, which will gradually refine the native into mastering the will. Leo Aquarius is a polarity of the will and willpower. The lesson of Chiron is to break Saturn form so that the native can move into Uranian dimensions. And Chiron in Leo signifies a life-death struggle to develop the higher will. The higher will represents the ability to choose to resonate with the higher self, to choose to bring the higher self into life during any incarnation. The higher self will not manifest in the body unless the crisis of the fifth house is resolved. The fifth house represents empowerment and shining, right? Like making shit happen. The Leo actualizes the royal person or soul being in the body. Chiron and Leos feel something special about themselves, which attaches itself to the ego in the early stages. For most, the way to break the ego hold is to mimic oneself, to identify with a purpose larger than self so that the self takes on proper importance. That's what most people do, right? But for Chiron and Leo, they must become the ego. Their life and death struggle is the preservation of the ego as long as it is required for survival. The key is that they cannot let go of the ego until they have mastered enough to handle Uranian energy. They're in danger of being overwhelmed by Uranus until they are very secure and mature. So this is a special circumstance. When you're dealing with someone with Chiron and Leo, you almost have to help them merge, like master their ego and understand even more and deeper how their egoic ways function. And like instead of merging away from the ego to the higher self, you have to bring the higher self into the ego. So it's almost like reverse. You're almost like you're teaching them how to be egoic, but in healthy ways, right? Chiron and Virgo. Chiron reveals this true essence of Virgo, the sign which it rules, because Chiron rules Virgo. And also, I would say this also applies to Chiron in the sixth house as well, because Virgo rules the sixth house. These natives are our greatest source on this dynamic because the historical documentation is small. Subtlety and exactitude characterize these individuals who are coming into their own due to the sighting of their planet. The low form of the Virgo dynamic is Saturnian and compulsive. Saturn control is used to hold back the greatly feared Uranian energy in check. Men with low Virgo tendencies often are compulsive workaholics who express Uranus with kinky sexual behavior. And I have a couple friends that exhibit that exact behavior too. The women tend to hold absolute power in the office and home, then lose their shit at parties. And I know some of them too. The energy of Uranus is avoided and feared, and aging is Saturnian instead of Uranian transformation growth. So if these people don't face their shit, then they will start to look old at a very young age. If they do face their shit, they're going to look young and vibrant, and they're going to be incredibly intelligent and mature. The high energetics of Virgo develop a keen understanding of the positive use of Saturn, which to bring matter into form, but not hold it. The ability to allow Uranian transformation matures with time and evolves to a deep intuition about perfect timing. These people just know. They know exactly when, where, how, why, what, and when to do what they got to do to make shit happen. Chiron ruling Virgo demonstrates that the Virgo dynamic is to teach perfection of form on Earth so that the bridge to the higher dynamics can be built. Virgo can be the essence of love of Earth, healing, combined with a joy of higher consciousness. So Chiron and Virgo will be the teachers of this bridge, kind of like what I'm doing here with you right now, but they will be able to get deeper into the mastery of it. Chiron in Libra. When Chiron is in Libra, the native is balancing the self in relationship to the other side. Understanding of self is garnered by looking at oneself in the mirror, which is offered by other people. These natives are trying to balance elements, to make order out of chaos. They only know themselves by the degree of harmony they observe in others. This person is measuring him or herself by others' responses almost constantly. And this is very similar to the seventh house because Libra rules the seventh house. On the low side, the sense of self is undeveloped and the individual craves constant new experiences. On the high side, this individual has a truly remarkable understanding of him or herself that has come from observing others, consequently manifesting great artistic skill. These natives require strong relationships with plenty of feedback to get in touch with who they really are. Chiron and Libra can cause Saturn fixation on the ruling parent from childhood. These people must really learn to identify what is fair or just. They have a personal imperative to discover what side is correct and a hatred for injustice. There is usually some blindness about who they are with karmic situations as they relate to others. Chiron and Scorpio is the transformative and evolutionary energy of Pluto becomes the personal quest. It focuses Plutonian depth and process directly into space and time. This is a very intense placement. They feel a deep memory of a time when Plutonic force was acceptable to the culture, but at this time they think no one can imagine how they feel inside. This causes the struggle between Saturn and Uranus to be volcanic, and these natives are either extraordinary in their personal evolution, or they have not found an avenue to express their increasing power within. They may also be expressing low Pluto by searching for power and pleasure at the cost of others. So this is like win-lose, right? I'm gonna fuck you over so I can, make it. Which that approach to life is definitely dying off. The evolutionary force of Pluto will express itself as a learning death Saturn or Kundalini life force Uranus. Experience is Plutonian or evolutionary, and the process of the psyche at any given time is death or life oriented. There's no in between. All right. Every experience is either creating more life or it's creating a death. And we have to go through both. Like ego death happens constantly going through this ascension process. And the better we get at allowing it to go through us, like the wind through a screen, okay, the better we get at allowing this Chiron energy to infuse us with this healing nature and healing power, okay? Chiron is focused in space and time. Pluto is unceasing evolutionary movement. Work must be done to see if the native is already dying, and behavior must be examined to see if this native is expressing lower or high Pluto energy. This one you have to be very, very careful of. You have to be able to read their energy. Like you have to be in a very like high and like self-protected, space, like have strong emotional boundaries, or these people can penetrate the deepest boundaries and they know how to manipulate. Pluto is obsessive in their desire to find loopholes and find the hidden door. Kind of like back in the day, Legend of Zelda, you put a bomb on the wall and sometimes it opens up this hidden crevice. Okay. That's what Chiron and Scorpio does. It finds those little hidden doors and they have like a master key that unlocks everything. It's very, very, this is like, Hannibal Lecter and that detective that worked with Hannibal Lecter. It's very, very deep and very intense. Chiron Sagittarius. When Chiron is in Sagittarius, there is a crisis about integration of the higher self into one's consciousness. And of course, Sagittarius rules the 9th house. So, they're similar, but they do have their differences. These natives are on a quest to become ensouled, to bring the highest essence into their own form so they can connect with the central organizing principle of all their incarnations. This connection is blocked until the higher self is embodied. Until they begin to bring the higher self in and become ensouled, they will go on many quests and explore many religions. Once they comprehend that they are the bridgers in their own bodies between essence, Uranus, and Saturn, Earth, then they become electrical conduits. Many with this position will have transiting Uranus conjunct Saturn opposite Uranus conjunct transiting Chiron in their lifetime. They will ensoul at that point. This will be similar to like a Saturn return, right? This is a major aspect. There are a few major aspects. There's the Saturn return, there's the Uranus opposition, there's the Pluto square, and then there's the Saturn opposition, then there's a Chiron return. Right now, we are basically going through a little bit of all that, all in one. So if you're going through a Saturn return or one of those other aspects, in addition to all the shit going on this year, wow, you're going through some massive transformation. All right. So Chiron rules the method of the quest. Sagittarius is the quest. The 9th house is where we connect with our inner self. The higher self cannot become embodied without Kundalini integration. Now, if you notice, Chiron is essentially the process of integrating this Kundalini energy. Sagittarius is the Kundalini energy. All right. Chiron and Capricorn. When Chiron is in Capricorn, there's a karmic crisis about succeeding in one's quest and balance in life between success and nurturance. This is complex because the native is personally invested in their own success while they are still relatively unevolved. This native has great difficulty being open to any path outside of their own. This path is understood to be a path of the higher self, as well as the normal desires for success and power. Thus, the individual invests this quest with spiritual significance. This creates a great difficulty hearing or seeing the way of other people, resulting in the loss of the mirror or sight offered by feedback from others. Be very stubborn. This native possesses great power and energy because they hold Uranian force in the Saturnian body and are adept at manifesting it. They're almost always early achievers and proud of it. the extreme knowledge these natives possess about electrical energy in the body is striking, and as evidence, they know a lot about Uranus. The most important lesson for this native is to listen. Attunement with the part of fortune or how to feel good and to work with the 5th house will help as well. Now, I didn't go over the part of fortune in this course, but basically, I will look it up when after this, when we go into the chart. The part of fortune is a calculation, and it represents a gift that we are good at. Like I have my part of fortune Gemini, right? So I am able to understand 2 sides of a story. I'm able to see both sides of an argument, right? And I'm able to discern and communicate that. That's kind of like the essence of Gemini, right? So you'll be able to identify that, and we will go deeper into that, of course, in level 3. Chiron in Aquarius. When Chiron is in Aquarius, there is a crisis over being grounded, over existing on Earth in a balanced way. This is the opposite dynamic of Chiron and Capricorn, right? Because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Higher consciousness Uranus has no place to exist without a body, Saturn. And as we move into Aquarius, we are being taught about bridging by the ecological crisis. Those born with Chiron and Aquarius are electrical, not grounded. They are airheads. They are meant to manifest idealism, to bring great gifts to the culture in areas by the house location. But they must first carefully connect deep into the earth and become realistic. They possess great potential if they can balance and connect. These people need to ground a lot, be in nature a lot. These natives resonate with a galactic vibrational attunement. They are excellent teachers of the chironic force that builds the rainbow bridge, the connection between Saturn form and Uranian electrical integration. This native must be diligent on grounding, on bridging, on balancing, and on valuing experiential learning. On valuing experiential learning, that's what all of this is all about. Okay, so Chiron in Pisces. When Chiron is in Pisces, there is a crisis over connecting with the God force, the universal oneness. For humans, nothing can really be completely understood unless we have a material, emotional, mental, and spiritual grasp of it. The Chiron for a focus in space and time is a key to the materiality of Neptune. If you visualize Chiron as a focal point of a vortex with Neptunian resonance as the wide rim, the individuals with Chiron and Pisces are manifestors of this subtle force, the chironic force, but they are way out on the wide rim of the spiral. This energy is entirely about the astral plane. Working with astral energy is part of the process of clearing that we need in order to manifest higher Neptunian energies, being in touch with the divine. We experience Neptune here by means of Neptunian matter. It can be grasped, but we don't realize it because we have not had conceptual tools to grasp it until now. Just know, the better you can identify it, the less it can control or affect you. Okay, this is really Neptunian forces. It doesn't really have form. It's obscure. It's the formless. It's energy, really. So we connect to different dimensions through the Neptunian energy. Okay, but know this. Okay, no force in the universe is good or bad. It is only used well or poorly. Developing this energy requires strong and solid emotional boundaries and very open mindset. Okay, now we also have to remember too that all of these, energies require a very strong boundaries and very powerful mindset. Okay, that's the whole process of working with Chiron energy. But so this is energy that has to be studied. It has to be practiced. It has to be. It's a process. This won't happen overnight, and this is not something that comes right away. This comes with, between failures and experience and ups and downs and lefts and rights. But right now, there are so many people experiencing all this stuff. When you start to understand this about yourself, it's amazing how you can read people. It's mind-boggling, okay? So now we're going to get into the charts, and I'm going to break everything down and show you what's going on there. So here we see we have no aspects, all right? Now, once we start to include aspects, okay, we'll start with the major ones first. First, we have a conjunction. Okay, now conjunctions, you don't see anything because it just shows the planets that are conjunct. Here we can see this, the Sun and Mercury, all right? Saturn and Pluto are about 7 degrees apart, but they're still kind of conjunct, and Saturn and Jupiter are exactly conjunct at 29 degrees. These guys are close, but not quite. We have Black Moon Lilith at a 2-degree orb with Uranus and Black Moon Lilith. Okay, now let's add the opposition. Where's the opposition? Okay, so this is interesting. Let's try to square. Okay, so in this software, the opposition between the nodes does not come into play. So essentially there are no oppositions, but we have quite a few trines, which is happy, right? Trines are good. I have Chiron trine over to White Moon Selena. Chiron, the moon is also trine to White Moon Selena. Venus is trine over to Chiron. We have the South Node trine over to Mars, which was beautiful. Black Moon Lilith and Uranus are both trine over to, now if they're a little bit too close, okay, on this particular software, you can go to the grid and see exactly all the aspects that are going on so far, okay? So Chiron is conjunct, this is the conjunction, conjunct the moon, square to the sun, square to Mercury, trine to Venus. Black Moon Lilith is trine to the sun, trine to Mercury. Beautiful. We have the North Node square to Neptune. The South Node trine to Mars, square to Neptune. Ascendant conjunct to Neptune. Okay, now the Ascendant and the MC are not really important when it comes to just looking at transits, but everything else is pretty much fair game. So Mercury square the moon and conjunct the sun. The sun square the moon. Now the sun square the moon is going to be pretty intense because, you know, the sun and the moon are major, like the two most major aspects that we have, the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. But because it's a transit, okay, we don't really have an ascendant because the ascendant represents a person. This is the collective consciousness. Okay, so we have quite a few squares here. All right. Pluto is square over to Mars. Exactly. How exciting. So this is going to be right now, in fact, while I'm making this video, we're at the beginning of the Mars square to Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. So this is, at this point, this is essentially going to be the ending or the finishing off of this cycle of the Mars square all these energies. So this is going to be an intense culmination point. I mean, you know, at the end of the Mayan calendar, you know, Jupiter, and this is also the ending of all the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions for the last 200 years have been in Earth signs. Aquarius is an air sign. So this is the first of the next 200-year cycle of Jupiter conjunct Saturn in air signs. And whenever Jupiter is conjunct Saturn, about every 20 years, last one was during 9/11, 2001. Okay, which we all know what happened at that point. The time before that was in 1981 when the AIDS virus was discovered. Okay, let's look at the sextile. Boom, 2 sextiles. Okay, we have Jupiter and Saturn. Okay, sextile over to the moon, which is BEA beautiful. Okay, then we also have Jupiter and Saturn sextile to White Moon Selena, which is also BEA beautiful. Now, White Moon Selena is, I have a series of videos talking about that on my YouTube. You can go over there and check that out if you'd like to know more about White Moon Selena. That's basically our spiritual gift. Semi-square, okay? Now we have these little dotted lines with the half check mark there. That's semi-square. So we have Black Moon Lilith and Uranus semi-square to the North Node. Black Moon Lilith and Uranus semi-square over to Neptune. So that's a slightly difficult aspect, you know, especially between Neptune and Uranus. That's very ethereal. That's like the energy is very tumultuous. It makes us need to grow and learn and you know, process stuff. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the sessi-square or sessi-quadrate. Okay, now, okay, so see this little television looking mark right here, that is the sessi-quadrate. So this represents past life energy or past life aspects. Again, this is like slightly difficult, but this is in addition to other aspects that are going on there too. We see Uranus and Black Moon Lilith sesquiquadrate over to the South Node. That means letting things go, all right? And, allowing past life lessons to be done and past life gifts to be embodied into physical form. And then we have Mars sesquiquadrate over to Venus. So that is, a reconfiguration between the divine masculine and divine feminine. Very interesting, right? And of course, Mars being at 23 degrees, this is right about where the Mars retrograde started. So it's back to where it started, and it's going forward. Going to be an exciting and interesting time. So now we're going to go to the semi-sextile. Boom. I have a couple semi-sextiles here. We have from Chiron to Black Moon Lilith and Uranus, okay? Because with the 2-degree orb, these things are that is still within within the distance. So that is a good sign of being able to embrace and process vulnerability. And of course, we have Chiron transiting Aries right now. So this, in the collective unconscious, this is about all of our ego identification, right? The ego identification is going through a massive shift and up-leveling and transformation. So a lot of people are feeling vulnerable, and a lot of people do not like to feel vulnerable. So if you know how to feel and work with this energy, it is a major, major plus. We have Jupiter and Saturn semi-sextile to the Sun and Mercury, which is an excellent, excellent position. Like these guys are happy. And this is a major, major aspect. It only happens 20 years. So this is going to be incredibly transformative with the Sun at a master degree. Okay, 0 degree is a master degree. 0 degrees is a master degree. Very, very intense. Okay, and with Mercury, there is communication. We're going to get an up-leveling of some kind of gift, some kind of message, some kind of like maybe a new understanding of our mission here on Earth, right? And the Sun is right at the ecliptic. So this is literally a new start of new starts. This is like the starting line for the age of Aquarius. Okay, and being that this conjunction is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, we've gone through like some, it's almost like at the beginning of this year, we had a soft opening, right? We're going to the age of Aquarius, and this year has been like a soft opening and purging of all the age of Pisces shit. Now, as we go into December 21st into 2021, we're going to really be stepping into the age of Aquarius. Things are going to pick up even faster, okay? Now let's add in the quincunx. Boom. We have one quincunx, okay, between Uranus and Black Moon Lilith and Venus. Okay, that is going to be interesting because Black Moon Lilith is like, a very like frustrated sexual energy. And then Uranus is, of course, the great disruptor, right? It's the evolutionary, it's the Kundalini energy. So there's a lot of sexual energy that is confused with Venus in Sagittarius. Now, Venus in Sagittarius is like a brilliant mind, a beautiful mind, and also physical beauty too. But this is really about just curious and wondering about how, like what to do, where to go. So you see how this can really, really go down some seriously deep rabbit holes. And with the quincunx of like, I don't know what I want to explore. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do with my sexual energy. How do I process it? How do I deal with this? And of course, with the Mars exactly square to Pluto here for the final time, man, that is just so, so intense. Because Mars and Pluto are very sexual in nature too. Mars is divine masculine. Pluto is the death and rebirth, but it's the deep, the Mars, like the darkness, right? All the darkness that is purging up and out. So a lot of people are going to be feeling very confused, very like, either directionless or super intensely passionate about the direction that they're going. Now we're going to go into the quintile, okay? This little fluorescent aqua looking thing right here is the quintile, all right? Between the North Node and Chiron. All right, so remember what we had going on with that. This is like some spiritual gifts coming down in regards to our chironic energy. So Chiron is very, very important to be able to embracing and flowing through right now. The biquintile, all right? The Q squared right there, that is a biquintile, 4 degrees, 80 degrees, okay? North Node biquintile to Pluto. That is intense and that is deep. So we have some massive massive spiritual gifts and revelations, like literally connecting to different dimensions going on here in this time. Okay, now we have the decile. All right, so where we see these D's, all right, you got the D. All right, they're kind of hard to see, so I'm actually going to take out some of these other aspects here so we can see. Let's take out the square. All right, so we have let's see, you can take out the trines and the sextiles and the semi-square. Oh, screw it, semi. Okay, so those D's are really, really tough to see. So I really want to be able to, okay, so these are all kind of the same color. So let's get rid of these guys too. So we can really see, okay, see, these are really small ones right there. So we have, let's see, Neptune, decile to, what is that, Mars, and the moon decile to Black Moon Lilith. Now these are going to be more exact, okay, but just getting an idea and understanding of how deep down the rabbit hole you can really go. Okay, let's put all these aspects back. Here we go. Okay, now we have a sesquiquintile. All right. All right, so that's the D squared right there, if you can see that. Okay, that's from Neptune over to White Moon Selena. All right, which is, again, another very subtle spiritual energy. There's a lot of interconnection of different dimensions, as you can see here. It's very, very deep. Okay, septile. All right, now we go into the pink. All right, right here we have Jupiter, Saturn, septile to Venus, which is incredible. That's a beautiful, beautiful aspect. That's going to be really beneficial. Now we're going to go into biseptile. Okay, now we have the S squared here from Pluto over to Uranus. Wow, that is intense. Okay, biseptile from Pluto to Uranus is going to be deep, and there's a lot of really deep energy, right? All the outer planets, when they have aspects like this, they're very subtle, and it's like suddenly things just show up, things just happen out of nowhere. You may not even realize it until in retrospect, but the deeper you dig into these, you could really look deep in your consciousness, see what's going on. So now we have a triseptile. Okay, so I'm going to blink that a couple times. Okay, see, so we have this purple one right here, which is basically Black Moon Lilith and Uranus, triseptile to White Moon Selena, and also Venus. The Venus is going to the Uranus, and the Black Moon Lilith is going to the White Moon Selena. So Black Moon Lilith, triseptile to White Moon Selena. That's almost like the dark and the light in our spiritual gifts shaking hands. Okay, which is freaking huge. So as you can see, this energy is like, okay, it's time to evolve. It's time to grow. It's time to level up. So this is where, so between, as we can see here with these energies already, that in the next few months, we are going to be purging all the shit that we have to purge in order to be able to level up, right? Evolve. If we do not, we probably won't make it. I don't really know what that means. I don't know if we're going to die, or if we're going to get really sick, or if we're just going to fall for, I mean, I doubt we're going to fall for, like this dystopian, Orwellian theory of a vision for the world. But this is where you really have to start thinking about energy and really start to feel the energy and what it means to you. Novile. Okay, so here we have, click it a couple times so you can see it. Okay, it's right up here, that little N. Okay, we have a novile between Jupiter, Saturn, and South Node, letting go of something. All right, binovile. All right, right down there between the moon and the North Node. This is, again, another spiritual gift coming into play. All right, quadranovile. There are no quadranoviles in here. All right, let's do the undecile. Okay, we got a little tiny one right there between Chiron and Uranus. So Chiron is undecile to Uranus, all right? By undecile, all right? We see that U2, hey. All right, we see it's from Chiron to Jupiter, Saturn. Wow. So that is, again, another purging of deeply embedded karmic vulnerable energies. This is really activating a lot of this Chiron energy. You see how much energy is coming off that Chiron, big time. So this is really dissolving the ego collectively, all right, which we already know is going on, but this really gives like credence to how deep this is going. Here we have a tri undecile, okay? Chiron, the moon to the south node, okay? Emotionally letting things go, all right? Now we have quadra undecile. And we don't have any quadra undecile here. How about a quinta undecile? No quinta undecile. How about and that is all the aspects, okay? So you can see how deep this rabbit hole can go, all right? There's a lot of energy going on. There's a lot of different things happening. That is why I choose to use certain ones that I resonate with. So I will bring it back to what I normally use, because a lot of the stuff can just sort of get in the way. It gets very confusing and the energy gets sort of scattered, right? These energies are better for if you're working with someone, they have a specific question or they want to know something, very specific. Quincunx, I'm going to keep the quincunx in there. And Sesqui square. Okay, so I like the Sesqui square because my mentor really highlighted that to me, and that one was very stood out to me. Like whatever of these aspects really stand out to you, go back, read the description, see what it means to you, and see what you feel, and look at your own chart and see where you have these aspects. And the more you study these aspects, you'll feel, oh, I really resonate with that, or I don't really resonate with that one so much. And see where it falls into place for you, okay? But as you can see, we have one green, which is like a confusing, frustrating energy. So that's not too bad. We have about equal amount of blue and red. So that's good because it's equal amount of good with just as much tension to make it go. Now we can also look here and see the difference between the blue and red, all right? Maybe a little bit more red than blue, okay? We also have the black, which is the conjunction, which those aren't necessarily good or bad. That when we see conjunctions, we have to look into the nature of the planet. For example, we have Saturn, which is a malefic, right? It's a constricting, kind of difficult, like disciplining kind of energy, right? It makes you need to be the master, it makes you need to be the best. Now, Jupiter is the great benefic. So we have the great benefic and the great malefic sitting here, exactly conjunct. So this is like two completely opposing energies coming together and shaking hands, saying, hey, change is going to happen. We need to make something happen. We need to evolve. This is incredibly evolutionary, all right? The sun conjunct Mercury is also called a Cazimi, and we can get more into that into level 3, all right? But this is at a 1 degree orb, okay? So this is whenever the sun is a Cazimi Mercury, all right, especially at 0 and 1 degrees, the 0 degrees is a master number. It's the void space. This is downloads, uploads, getting a lot of information from spirit, really coming into a new chapter. There's a lot of new chapter kind of energy here, okay? White Moon Selena at a 7 degree over Venus. That's a little bit of a stretch, okay? But this is at 0 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is our spiritual gift of just wanting to reach out to the world, right? This is really evolving in our desire, in our awareness, in our understanding, in our dedication to our spiritual healing and spiritual health practice. All right, then we have Black Moon Lilith and Uranus. So Black Moon Lilith and Uranus are going to be hanging out for quite some time here in Taurus. So this is about like, you're identifying these, habits that hold you back. And are you going to succumb or submit to those habits? And this Taurus is like earthly desires, like physical touch, physical body. Like, are you going sleeping around? Or, are you going to do drugs and, to distract yourself? Or like, how are you taking care of yourself? Like the ecology, like, what are you doing to facilitate, the healing of the earth? Okay. This is looking at, how we take care of ourselves and how that is a reflection of how we are taking care of the world and the collective consciousness in and of itself. All right. And so that's pretty much the midheaven is a calculation. The north and south node are just our calculations of the moon as well. So then, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 trines. Uranus. So Uranus trine Sun is absolutely amazing, and Uranus trine Mercury is just awesome. Okay. Chiron trine Venus is also pretty awesome too. South node trine to Mars, letting go of the parts of our divine masculine that are not working. All right. All these are, the north node semi-square to Uranus and square to Neptune. So we are also coming into Neptune square the nodes. So we have Neptune here at 18 degrees. Actually, it's not coming into, it is. Wow, that came up fast. Neptune is square at 19 degrees, almost exact already, and 19 degrees here. So when Neptune is square the nodes, this is where the world gets very confused. Everything seems like we don't know what's reality and what's not. This is where there's a good chance that we're going to have a fake alien invasion or some weird, this is where the media is really playing tricks on us. This is, but this is also a significant upgrade, through confusion and what the hell, a lot of people that are not connected with their heart are going to be like, what the hell is going on? I don't know what to think, but we're being taken into another dimension. Okay. And with Neptune square these nodes, it's time to go. Whether you like it or not, whether you're ready or not, we're going. Neptune is the collective unconscious. It's we are all one. And when they're square, it's tense, right? So it's saying that, okay, whether you like it or not, it's time to let go of shit. It's time to embrace shit. While all this other energy is going on, here we go. We are on our way. Okay. So as you can see, this is why each astrologer is going to have a bit of a different message, because the way I interpret it, it might be a little bit different than you interpret it. All right. So now that you have all of this information, all right, this is solidifying the foundation of your practice. Master your own consciousness through your chart. If you are interested in doing level 3, which will be an 8-week intensive course, all right, we'll be doing weekly group Zoom sessions and going over all this stuff and learning how to go deeper down some rabbit holes with these energies and really, really mastering all the minute differences. And I will help teach you how to channel this energy at a deeper and deeper level. I will basically read your energy and help you learn to read energy as well. Now, I'm sure, if you're doing this, you already have some kind of divination practice. All right. You probably already a tarot card reader, or you do some kind of energy healing, or you're interested in some kind of work like that. So you can bring that all in together. And the more you know about this, the more you can solidify this, this process. So at this point, you now have 90 days, okay, to study this material. Go back over level 1, level 2, look, really, really dig in when you're in different emotional places and dig into your chart. And I want you to make a 30-minute long video, okay, like how I make with you. And I want you to read your own chart to me. And I look forward to working with you. And I hope that you got a lot out of this course. Okay. Please let me know. I would like feedback. Please let me know what you thought about this course, how you liked it. Let me know if you want to jump to the next level. And other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste, and have a beautiful